No way you people could afford a first-class ticket. I'm sure that ticket is stolen. It's suspicious. You need to be locked up and investigated. The gate agent leaned forward, pointing at Maya, a 12-year-old black girl with tears dripping down her face. Her words hung in the air, a stark reminder of how racism had wormed its way into every corner of society, even into airport terminals where children traveled alone to visit family. The girl, face frozen in shock, tears on her face, could hardly believe what she'd just heard. She was supposed to be boarding the plane, heading to spend spring break with her grandmother in Chicago like any other kid whose parents trusted them to travel independently. But to the gate agent, her presence, her mere existence at this gate with a boarding pass in hand, had already been judged. She wasn't supposed to be there. Not because she didn't belong, but because she was black. It wasn't the first time she'd been judged based on her skin color. There had been store clerks who followed her down aisles. Teachers who seemed surprised when she got good grades. Security guards who watched her a little too closely. But this was different. The girl stood there alone, the weight of the moment sinking in. She had every right to be there with her legitimately purchased ticket, yet here she was, being accused of fraud for something she couldn't change. Before we continue with the story, welcome to Hyper Racism Channel, where we expose the truth about racial profiling of black people in America, truths the airline industry would rather keep hidden. They don't want us to reach a wide audience, but we're not backing down. Let's make sure the truth gets out. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can reach millions with the facts they've tried to bury. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button and supporting the cause. Flight 3294 to Chicago was boarding behind the agent, passengers streaming past with their luggage and coffees, eyes darting toward the confrontation, but their feet kept moving forward. The girl, 12 years old with her hair in neat braids and her small rolling suitcase beside her, tried to find her voice. "Ma'am, my mom bought this ticket. I have the confirmation email. I can show you." The gate agent didn't even look at the phone the girl held out. "I've been doing this job for 15 years, she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I know a fraudulent ticket when I see one. And I know when kids are trying to scam the system." "I'm not scamming anyone," the girl said, her voice shaking now. "Please, my grandma is waiting for me. She's been planning this visit for months. I just want to see my grandma." Other travelers slowed as they passed, sensing something wrong. Some pulled out their phones, the little red recording lights blinking to life. An elderly black woman 2 gates over stood up, watching with concern. A white businessman in line rolled his eyes and moved to a different gate. A young couple whispered to each other but kept walking. Everyone was watching. Everyone was recording. Nobody intervened. The gate agent picked up her phone. "I'm calling the airport police. This child is attempting to board with what I believe is a fraudulent ticket, and she's being uncooperative." "I'm not being uncooperative," the girl said desperately, tears forming now. "I'm telling the truth. Please just scan my ticket. It'll work. Please." If you believe no child should ever stand alone in an airport and be accused of fraud just because of the color of their skin, keep watching. If you think racial profiling at airline gates ended decades ago, you need to see what happens next. And if you've ever been treated like a criminal when you were just trying to live your life, drop a comment below and tell us your story. Tell us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. We're reading every single one because your voice matters. This story doesn't end the way you think. What happens when this girl's father arrives will shock you, but what happens before that will absolutely break your heart. Hit that like button if you stand against racism, and subscribe to this channel because we're exposing incidents of airline discrimination that happen every single day. Incidents caught on camera by dozens of witnesses who stayed silent. Stay with us. You won't want to miss what comes next. But to understand how this 12-year-old girl ended up standing at gate 14 being accused of fraud, we need to go back 5 hours to that morning when everything still felt full of hope and possibility. Her name was Maya Johnson. She was 12 years old, in 7th grade at Lincoln Middle School in Detroit, Michigan. Maya was the kind of kid any parent would be proud of. Straight A student, captain of her school's debate team, volunteered at the community library on Saturdays, reading to younger kids. She played clarinet in the school band and had just won second place in the district science fair for her project on water filtration systems. Her bedroom walls were covered with certificates, ribbons, photos of friends, and dreams captured in posters of colleges she wanted to attend someday. Maya lived with both her parents in a comfortable house on the east side of Detroit. Her mother, Dr. Nicole Johnson, was a pediatrician at the Children's Hospital. Her father, Chief Marcus Johnson, was the chief of police for the Detroit Police Department. He'd been with the force for 25 years, worked his way up from patrol officer to detective to captain, and finally to chief 3 years ago. He was respected in the community, known for his fairness, his commitment to reform, and his belief that policing should protect everyone equally, regardless of race. Chief Johnson had raised Maya to be strong, independent, and aware. He'd taught her about her rights, about dignity, about standing up for herself while also being smart and safe. He'd also taught her the painful reality that even when you do everything right, even when you're polite and respectful and follow all the rules, some people will still treat you differently because of the color of your skin. This trip to Chicago was special. Maya's grandmother, her father's mother, lived there. Grandma Ruth was 72 years old, a retired nurse who'd worked at Cook County Hospital for 40 years. She was a civil rights veteran, had marched with Dr. King in the 60s, and still had the scars on her legs from where police dogs had bitten her during a protest in Birmingham. She told stories that made history come alive, that connected Maya to a legacy of resistance and dignity and fighting for what was right. They hadn't seen each other since Christmas, 6 months ago. Grandma Ruth had been asking when Maya could visit, and with spring break coming up, her parents had bought her a plane ticket. It would be Maya's first time flying completely alone, no parent with her, just her and her rolling suitcase and her phone and the confidence that came from being raised to be capable and brave. That morning, Maya had woken up before her alarm, too excited to sleep. She'd packed and repacked her suitcase 3 times the night before, making sure she had everything. Her favorite books. The scrapbook she'd been making for her grandmother, full of photos and drawings. Clean clothes folded neatly. Her toothbrush and hairbrush. The special tea her grandmother loved that you could only get in Detroit. Everything organized, everything perfect. Her mother had made breakfast while her father reviewed some paperwork for work. Pancakes and eggs at their kitchen table, the 3 of them together before Maya's big solo trip. Her father had looked up from his files, his police chief uniform already on for his shift that started after he dropped Maya at the airport. "You remember everything we talked about?" Chief Johnson had asked his daughter. "Stay aware. Keep your phone charged. Call us when you board. Call us when you land." "Dad, I'll be fine," Maya had said with the confidence of a 12-year-old who didn't yet know how cruel the world could be. "It's just a 2-hour flight." Her father had looked at her for a long moment, something heavy in his eyes. "Baby girl, I need you to listen to me. If anyone gives you trouble or treats you wrong, please call me immediately. Please don't argue with them. Don't get upset. Just stay calm and call me. You understand?" Maya had nodded, not quite understanding the weight in her father's voice. "I will." The drive to Detroit Metro Airport had been quiet. Her father had given her last-minute reminders, told her how much Grandma Ruth was looking forward to seeing her, and made her promise again to call. At the terminal, Chief Johnson had walked his daughter as far as security would allow. He'd been in uniform, and Maya noticed how people looked at him differently, with respect, with caution, with awareness of his authority. He'd hugged her tight, kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you, baby girl. You're going to do great. And remember, if anything happens, anything at all, you call me right away. I will, Daddy. I promise." Security had been easy. TSA agents were friendly, some even recognizing Maya as the police chief's daughter, telling her to have a good flight. Maya had found her gate, sat down in the waiting area, and texted both her parents that she'd made it through security. Her father had responded immediately, "Love you. Be safe. Call if you need anything." Other passengers had filed into the waiting area. Business travelers with laptops and tired eyes. Families wrangling small children. College students with backpacks and headphones. Everyone was absorbed in their own journeys. Maya had watched them all, feeling very grown up, very independent, very ready for this small adventure. When boarding was called for her group, she'd gathered her things and joined the line. Her ticket was economy, seat 23B, middle seat, but she didn't mind. The gate agents at the desk had been processing passengers efficiently, scanning boarding passes with practiced speed. Maya had watched the line move forward, excited, nervous, ready. Then she'd stepped up to the desk. The gate agent, a white woman probably in her late 40s with blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp blue eyes, had looked at Maya's boarding pass. Then looked at Maya. Then back at the boarding pass. Her expression had shifted, something cold settling into her features. "Where did you get this ticket?" The gate agent had asked, her tone immediately different from how she'd spoken to the white passengers ahead of Maya. "My parents bought it for me," Maya had answered politely. "I'm flying to Chicago to see my grandmother." The gate agent had studied the boarding pass like she was looking for evidence of fraud. "How old are you?" 12. "Traveling alone?" "Yes, ma'am." Something in the gate agent's expression had hardened. She'd scanned the boarding pass, frowned at her computer screen, and scanned it again. "This isn't scanning properly. I need to verify that this ticket is legitimate." "It should work," Maya had said, confusion in her voice. "My mom just bought it last week." "Step aside," the gate agent had said sharply. "You're holding up the line." And that was how it had started. Maya had stepped to the side, watching other passengers board without issue, wondering what she'd done wrong, not yet understanding that she hadn't done anything wrong at all. That her only mistake was being black at an airport gate where a racist woman had decided she didn't belong. The gate agent made a phone call, speaking in low tones, glancing at Maya repeatedly. Then she'd walked over with a supervisor. And that's when the real nightmare began. Maya stood to the side of gate 14, her small rolling suitcase beside her, watching other passengers board the plane that was supposed to take her to Chicago. The gate agent and supervisor were huddled together, looking at her boarding pass, whispering, glancing at her with expressions that made Maya's stomach twist with anxiety. She could feel eyes on her from all directions. Other travelers slowed down as they passed. Some were pulling out phones, recording, watching. But nobody said anything. Nobody asked if she was okay. The supervisor, a white man in his 50s with thinning hair and a name tag that read Thomas Mitchell, walked over to Maya with her boarding pass in hand. His expression was stern, skeptical, the kind of look adults give children they've already decided are lying. "Young lady, we have some concerns about this ticket," he said, his voice carrying across the gate area. "Can you explain how you obtained it?" Maya tried to keep her voice steady, even though her hands were shaking. "My mom bought it online last week. She used her credit card. I have the confirmation email on my phone if you want to see it." The supervisor exchanged a glance with the gate agent. "That won't be necessary right now. What we need to understand is why this ticket is showing irregularities in our system." "I don't know about any irregularities," Maya said, confusion and fear mixing in her voice. "It's a real ticket. My parents paid for it. I'm just trying to visit my grandmother." The gate agent crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "We've seen this before. Kids are trying to use fake tickets, fraudulent credit cards, thinking they can just walk onto a plane. It doesn't work that way." "I'm not trying to do anything wrong," Maya protested, her voice rising slightly with desperation. "Please, just call my parents. They can explain everything." "What's your father's name?" the supervisor asked. "Marcus Johnson. Maya started to say he's the chief of police, but the gate agent cut her off. "I'm sure he is," the gate agent said with barely concealed sarcasm. "Every kid in trouble suddenly has important parents." The supervisor turned away, pulling out his radio. "Security to gate 14, please. We have a situation with a minor and a suspected fraudulent ticket." Maya felt her heart drop. Security? Why did they need security? She hadn't done anything. She'd shown them her ticket, offered to show them the confirmation email, and told them the truth. Why wasn't anyone listening? Around her, the boarding area had gone quiet. Passengers who'd been absorbed in their phones or books were now watching openly. A businessman in a suit shook his head and muttered something about kids these days. A young white woman looked sympathetic but quickly looked away when Maya's eyes met hers. An elderly black woman 2 gates over stood up, her face etched with concern, but she didn't approach. just watched with the pain of someone who'd seen this kind of thing before and knew how it usually ended. Please, Maya said, her voice breaking now. Please, I'm not lying. My ticket is real. Just scan it again. Or call the airline customer service. Or let me call my parents. Please. The gate agent stepped closer, her voice cold. We don't take orders from children who are trying to commit fraud. You're going to wait right here until security arrives, and then you're going to answer their questions. And if you keep being difficult, this is going to get a lot worse for you. I'm not being difficult, Maya whispered, tears forming in her eyes now. I just want to see my grandma. You should have thought about that before you tried to scam an airline, the gate agent said. 2 airport police officers appeared within minutes, both white men in uniform with radios on their belts and expressions that suggested they'd already decided Maya was guilty before they'd even heard what happened. The gate agent immediately launched into her explanation, her voice loud enough for everyone in the surrounding gates to hear. Officers, this minor presented what we believe is a fraudulent boarding pass. She's been uncooperative and evasive when we've tried to verify her ticket. We need her removed from the gate area and held for further questioning. Maya looked up at the police officers, at their serious faces and crossed arms, and felt fear unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Her father was a police officer. He'd taught her that police were supposed to help people, protect people. But these officers weren't looking at her like she needed help. They were looking at her like she was a criminal. One of the officers, older with gray in his hair, looked down at Maya. What's your name? Maya Johnson, she said quietly. How old are you? 12. And you're traveling alone? Yes, sir. I'm flying to visit my grandmother in Chicago. The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. Where are your parents? My dad dropped me off at security. They're both at work. And they bought this ticket for you? Yes, sir. Last week. My mom ordered it online. The gate agent interjected, her voice sharp. She claims her parents bought it, but the ticket is showing irregularities. We've seen situations like this before. Stolen credit cards, fraudulent bookings. She needs to be questioned properly. The younger officer pulled out a notepad. Miss, we're going to need you to come with us to answer some questions. Bring your bag. Am I in trouble? Maya asked, her voice small and scared. That depends on whether you're telling us the truth, the older officer said. Now let's go. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Maya picked up her suitcase with trembling hands. Around her, dozens of passengers watched. Phones were out, recording every moment. But not one person stood up. Not one person said this is wrong. Not one person asked the officers to verify the ticket before taking a child away. They just watched in guilty silence as 15-year-old Maya Johnson was escorted away from Gate 14, tears streaming down her face, heading toward an interrogation she didn't deserve, all because a racist gate agent had looked at her black face and decided she must be a criminal. And the worst part? The part would haunt the bystanders later when they saw what happened next. They'd all had a chance to speak up, to intervene, to say something, and every single one of them had chosen silence. The officers led Maya down a long corridor away from the gates, away from the crowds, toward a small security office with white walls and fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. Her rolling suitcase clicked behind her on the tile floor, each sound echoing in the empty hallway. Maya's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her throat felt tight. She kept thinking about her father, about how he'd told her to call if anything went wrong, about how her phone was still in her backpack, but she was too scared to reach for it. They entered a small room with a metal table and 4 chairs. No windows. Just harsh lighting and the smell of stale coffee. One officer gestured to a chair. Sit down. Maya sat, her backpack clutched on her lap like a shield. The younger officer stood by the door while the older one sat across from her, pulling out his notepad and a pen. The gate agent had followed them, standing in the corner with her arms crossed, satisfaction evident on her face. All right, Maya Johnson, the older officer began. Let's start from the beginning. Where did you get that boarding pass? My mom bought the ticket online, Maya said, her voice trembling. She ordered it from the airline website last week. She paid with her credit card. I have the confirmation email. She reached for her backpack, but the officer held up his hand. Don't reach into your bag without permission. What are you trying to get? My phone. The confirmation email is on my phone. The officer extended his hand. Give me the phone. I'll look at it. Maya pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and handed it over. The officer took it, examined the lock screen, then set it on the table in front of him. We'll get to that. First, I need you to explain something to me. Do you understand how much a plane ticket costs? I don't know exactly. A few $100s? Try again. That ticket you're carrying? If it's real, which we're not convinced of, it would have cost around $350. That's a lot of money for a 12-year-old. So I'm going to ask you again, and I want the truth this time. Where did you really get that ticket? I told you the truth, Maya said desperately. My parents bought it. My mom works at the children's hospital. She's a doctor. My dad is, she paused, then continued, he works for the city. They have good jobs. They can afford a plane ticket. The younger officer spoke up from the door, his voice skeptical. A lot of kids say their parents have good jobs when they're trying to cover up something. We've seen it before. Stolen credit cards. Identity theft. Kids think they're being clever. I'm not lying, Maya insisted, tears forming in her eyes now. Please, just call my parents. They'll tell you everything. The gate agent leaned forward from her corner. Officers, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I can spot a fraudulent ticket. That girl walked up to my desk with a ticket that didn't scan properly, couldn't provide adequate verification, and has been evasive ever since. She's clearly hiding something. I'm not hiding anything, Maya said, her voice rising with panic. I showed you my ticket. I offered to show you the confirmation. I told you my parents' names. What else do you want from me? The older officer's expression hardened. What I want is for you to stop wasting our time and tell us the truth. Did you steal someone's credit card information? Did you make this ticket yourself? Did someone give it to you and tell you to try to board the plane? Maya was crying openly now, tears streaming down her face. No, none of that happened. My mom bought this ticket because I'm supposed to visit my grandmother for spring break. That's all. That's the truth. Then why is the gate agent saying the ticket is fraudulent? I don't know. Maya's voice broke completely. Maybe the scanner is broken. Maybe she typed something wrong. I don't know why she's saying that, but my ticket is real. My parents bought it. I'm not a criminal. The younger officer walked over, leaning against the table. Here's the thing, sweetheart. We want to believe you. But your story doesn't add up. You're 12 years old, traveling alone, with an expensive ticket that's showing problems in the system. That looks suspicious. And when things look suspicious, we have to investigate. So if there's something you're not telling us, now's the time to come clean. Maya shook her head frantically, wiping tears from her face with the back of her hand. There's nothing to come clean about. I'm telling you everything. Please just let me call my dad. He'll explain. He'll fix this. We'll contact your parents when we're done here, the older officer said. But first, you're going to answer all of our questions truthfully. No more games. I'm not playing games, Maya sobbed. Please, I need to call my dad. Please. He told me to call if anything went wrong. Please let me call him. Your phone is right there, the younger officer said, gesturing to where it sat on the table in front of his partner. But we're not letting you call anyone until you tell us the truth about that ticket. I am telling you the truth, Maya cried, her whole body shaking now. Why won't anyone believe me? I've told you the truth over and over. My name is Maya Johnson. I'm 12 years old. I go to Lincoln Middle School. My mom is Dr. Nicole Johnson. My dad is Marcus Johnson. They bought me a plane ticket to visit my grandmother in Chicago because it's spring break and she's been asking to see me. That's the truth. That's all of it. There's nothing else to tell. The gate agent made a dismissive sound. She's good at this. Very convincing. But I've seen it before. These kids practice their stories. The older officer leaned forward, his voice taking on a harder edge. Maya, I'm going to give you one more chance. If you're using a fraudulent ticket, if you're trying to board a plane illegally, that's a federal offense. Do you understand what that means? That means real legal trouble. Criminal charges. A record that follows you for the rest of your life. Is that what you want? No, Maya whispered, barely able to speak through her tears. Then tell us the truth. Right now. Last chance. Maya looked at the officer, at the gate agent, at the cold room and the locked door, and her phone sitting on the table just out of reach. She thought about her father, about how he'd told her to call immediately if anything went wrong, about how he'd know what to do, how he'd fix this, how he'd make them understand. "Please," she said, her voice breaking into something raw and desperate that would haunt everyone who heard it. "Please, I'm begging you. Let me call my dad. Just let me call him. I promise I'm telling the truth. I promise. Please. I'm scared. I want my dad. Please let me call my dad." The plea hung in the air, heartbreaking and desperate, the sound of a child who'd done nothing wrong being treated like a criminal, begging for the one person who could help her while authority figures who should have protected her instead chose to believe she was lying. The older officer picked up Maya's phone, looked at it, then set it back down on his side of the table. "Not yet," he said coldly. "You haven't earned that privilege." And Maya Johnson, 12 years old, honor student, debate team captain, a child who'd never been in trouble in her life, broke down completely, sobbing in that small, cold room, powerless and alone, all because her skin was black and a racist gate agent had decided that was enough to make her guilty. 45 minutes had passed. 45 minutes of Maya sitting in that cold interrogation room, answering the same questions over and over. "Where did you get the ticket? Tell us the truth. Why are you lying to us?" The officers took turns, one harsh, one seemingly sympathetic, both convinced she was guilty of something. The gate agent stayed in the corner the whole time, occasionally adding her own accusations, reminding the officers that she knew fraud when she saw it. Maya had cried until she had no tears left. Her throat hurt from trying to explain. Her head pounded from the fluorescent lights and the stress and the fear. She kept looking at her phone on the table, so close but impossibly far away, thinking about her father, who had no idea his daughter was being interrogated like a criminal. Finally, the older officer stood up. "I need to make some calls. Verify your story. You're going to wait here while we do that." And he picked up Maya's phone and put it in his pocket. "Just so you don't get any ideas about calling anyone while we're gone." "Wait," Maya said desperately. "Please don't take my phone. What if my parents try to call me? What if my grandma calls because I'm supposed to land soon?" "They can wait," the officer said coldly. "This is what happens when you waste police time with false stories." "But I didn't," Maya started to protest, but both officers were already leaving, the gate agent following them out. The door closed with a heavy click. Locked from the outside. Maya was alone. She put her head down on the cold metal table and tried to breathe, tried to think. Her father had told her that if anything went wrong, call immediately. But they'd taken her phone. They'd locked her in this room. And nobody believed her. Nobody would listen. Time passed slowly. 10 minutes. 15. 20. Maya had no way to track it without her phone. The walls seemed to close in. She thought about her grandmother waiting at Chicago O'Hare, checking the arrivals board, wondering why Maya's flight would be delayed. She thought about her mother at the hospital, working her shift, trusting that her daughter was safely in the air by now. She thought about her father in his office at police headquarters, having no idea that other officers who should have been his colleagues, were treating his child this way. The door finally opened. But it wasn't the officers who'd left. It was a different airport security guard, a younger white man who looked barely out of his 20s. He had a clipboard and an expression of someone following orders without thinking about them. "Stand up," he said to Maya. "You're being moved to a holding area." "But," Maya asked, fear spiking again. "What's happening?" "Airport policy. Minors suspected of criminal activity can't be left unsupervised in interrogation rooms. You're going to wait in a different location until this gets sorted out." He led her out of the room and down another corridor, this one even more isolated than the first. They passed through a security door into a section of the airport most travelers never saw. Concrete floors. Exposed pipes. The sound of planes taking off is muffled by thick walls. Finally, they reached another small room, even more depressing than the last. A bench. A table. Nothing else. "Sit there," the guard said, pointing to the bench. "Don't move. Someone will come get you when the officers are ready to continue questioning." "Please," Maya said, trying one more time. "Please, can I just call my dad? I haven't done anything wrong. I just need to talk to my dad. The guard shrugged, uncomfortable but unwilling to help. That's not up to me. Just wait here. He left, closing the door. Not locked this time, but Maya was too scared to try to leave, too scared of making things worse. She sat on the cold bench, alone, terrified, with no way to contact anyone. But outside that room, someone had been watching. The elderly black woman from gate 14, the one who'd stood up and watched with pain in her eyes when Maya was taken away, had followed at a distance. She'd seen the officers take this child away. She'd seen the gate agent's satisfied expression. She'd seen all those passengers record and watch and do nothing. And she'd thought about her own granddaughter, about her own experiences with racism, about how many times she'd stayed silent when she should have spoken up. Not this time. She'd followed them through the terminal, staying back far enough not to be noticed, watching where they took the girl. When the young guard left Maya alone in that holding room, the elderly woman waited a few minutes, then approached the door. She knocked softly. Maya looked up, startled. The door opened, and the elderly woman stepped in quickly, closing it behind her. Her face was kind, worried, and determined. "Baby, are you all right?" the woman asked gently. Maya shook her head, fresh tears coming. "They won't let me call my dad. They took my phone." The woman pulled out her own phone. "What's your daddy's number, sweetheart? You call him right now. This has gone on long enough." Maya's hands shook as she took the phone. She dialed her father's number, the number she'd memorized since she was 6 years old. It rang once. Twice. "Please answer, Daddy. Please." Marcus Johnson, her father's voice came through, professional and brisk. "Daddy," Maya sobbed into the phone. "Daddy, please help me." "Maya?" Her father's voice changed instantly, sharp with alarm. "Baby girl, what's wrong? Where are you?" "I'm at the airport. They won't let me on the plane. They say my ticket is fake, but it's not, Daddy, I promise it's not. They called the police and they took me to a room and they kept asking me questions, and they took my phone and Daddy, I'm so scared. Please come get me. Please." She could hear her father moving and heard him shouting to someone. "Where exactly are you?" "Gate 14. But they moved me. I don't know where I am now. Some back room. Daddy, they won't believe me. I told them the truth, but nobody believes me. Listen to me, baby. Listen carefully." His voice was controlled, but Maya could hear the fury underneath. "I'm coming right now. I'm 10 minutes away. You stay calm. You don't answer any more questions without me there. You hear me? Not one more question. Please hurry. I'm coming." Put the nice lady back on the phone. Maya handed the phone to the elderly woman. Her father's voice came through, still audible to Maya. "Ma'am, I can't thank you enough for helping my daughter. My name is Marcus Johnson. I'm the chief of police for Detroit. I'm on my way to that airport right now, and when I get there are going to be serious consequences for everyone involved in this situation." The elderly woman's eyes widened slightly. "Are you the police chief?" "Yes, ma'am. And that's my daughter they've been terrorizing. Can you stay with her until I arrive? Please. I don't want her alone." "I'll stay," the woman said firmly. "You get here fast, Chief. This child has been through enough." She ended the call and sat down next to Maya, putting her arm around the girl's shaking shoulders. "Your daddy's coming, baby. He's going to fix this. Just hold on a little longer." But before Chief Johnson could arrive, the door burst open. The older officer from before stood there, his face red with anger. "Who told you that you could use a phone? And who the hell are you?" He pointed at the elderly woman, who stood up calmly, meeting his anger with steady resolve. "I'm someone who's not going to stand by and watch you terrorize a child. You need to leave. This is official police business." "Your police business just became a whole lot more complicated," the woman said. "That child's father is on his way. And when he gets here, you're going to wish you'd listened to her from the beginning." The officer's face darkened. He grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her to her feet roughly. "You're coming with me." "Don't you touch her," the elderly woman snapped, but the officer ignored her, dragging Maya toward the door. And then he did something that would be captured on the security cameras that Chief Johnson would later review. Something that would make national news. Something that would crystallize everything wrong with what had happened that day. He forced 12-year-old Maya Johnson to her knees on the concrete floor. "Stay there," he ordered. "Maybe kneeling will teach you some respect for authority. Maybe it'll make you think about telling the truth." Maya knelt on the cold, hard concrete, her knees hitting the floor with painful force, tears streaming down her face, every bit of dignity stripped away. Not because she'd done anything wrong. Not because she'd broken any law. But because she was black. A racist system had decided that was reason enough to punish her. The elderly woman pulled out her phone and started recording. "This is wrong," she said loudly. "This child has done nothing to deserve this treatment." "Put that phone away," the officer barked. "No," the woman said firmly. "The whole world needs to see what you're doing." And somewhere across the city, Chief Marcus Johnson was racing toward the airport, his lights flashing, his siren blaring, his heart pounding with a fury that would shake that airport to its foundation. His daughter was on her knees. And when he arrived, there would be hell to pay. The sound came first. Sirens. Multiple sirens, growing louder, closer, urgent. The officer standing over Maya, the one who'd forced her to her knees, looked toward the door with confusion. The elderly woman kept recording, her phone steady, her expression grim with satisfaction. Maya stayed on the cold concrete floor, her knees aching, her whole body trembling, barely daring to hope that those sirens meant what she thought they meant. Then came the footsteps. Fast, heavy, authoritative. Multiple sets. Running through corridors that civilians never saw. Voices shouting. "Get out of the way. Detroit Police Chief, clear the path." The door to the holding room burst open with such force that it slammed against the wall. And there stood Chief Marcus Johnson in his full dress uniform, for stars on his collar, badge gleaming on his chest, his face a mask of controlled fury that made everyone in that room take an involuntary step back. Behind him, 3 Detroit police officers, 2 airport security supervisors, and the airport manager himself all stopped in the doorway when they saw what was in front of them. A 12-year-old black girl on her knees on a concrete floor. An airport police officer was standing over her. An elderly woman is recording everything. The entire room froze. Chief Johnson's eyes swept the scene, taking in every detail in seconds. His daughter was kneeling. The officer's position of dominance. The elderly woman's phone. The fear and relief warring on Maya's tear-stained face. His jaw clenched so tight it looked like stone. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "Maya, baby girl, come here." Maya scrambled to her feet, her knees screaming in pain, and ran to her father. He caught her, wrapping one arm around her while keeping his eyes locked on the officer who'd made her kneel. Maya buried her face in her father's chest, sobbing, her whole body shaking with relief and trauma and the overwhelming safety of finally having her dad there. Chief Johnson held his daughter with one arm while his other hand pointed at the officer. "Don't move. Don't say a word. Don't even breathe wrong." The officer had gone pale, recognition finally dawning. "Chief Johnson? We were just." "I said don't speak." The chief's voice cut like a blade. He looked at one of his officers. "Get my daughter out of here. Take her somewhere safe. Get her water, food, whatever she needs. And I want a medic to check her knees." "Yes, sir," the officer said immediately, gently guiding Maya toward the door. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you somewhere comfortable." "Daddy," Maya said, not wanting to leave him. "I'll be right there, baby. I promise. I just need to handle this first." The fury in his voice made it clear what handling this meant. As Maya was let out, Chief Johnson turned his full attention to the airport officer who had made his daughter kneel. Behind him, the airport manager was sweating, looking like he might be sick. The gate agent who'd started this whole nightmare had appeared in the doorway, then immediately tried to back away when she saw Chief Johnson's expression. "You, Chief Johnson," pointed at her. "Don't you dare leave. You're part of this." He looked at the airport manager. "Your name?" "Richard Foster." "I'm the airport manager." "Chief Johnson, I had no idea." "You had no idea that your staff was racially profiling and terrorizing a 12-year-old child?" Chief Johnson's voice rose slightly. "You had no idea that your gate agent called the police on an innocent girl with a legitimate ticket? You had no idea that your airport police were interrogating my daughter without a parent present, confiscating her property, and forcing her to kneel on concrete like a criminal? Sir, I have only just learned about this situation. The manager's voice shook. The moment I was notified, I came immediately. How long has she been here? Chief Johnson demanded. How long has my daughter been held against her will? About an hour later, the elderly woman spoke up, still recording. I'm the one who gave her my phone to call you. These officers took her phone. Wouldn't let her contact anyone. Kept telling her she was lying when she was telling the truth the whole time. Chief Johnson turned to the woman, and his expression softened slightly. Ma'am, I cannot thank you enough. You saved my daughter when everyone else stayed silent. Somebody needed to do something, the woman said firmly. What they were doing to that baby was evil. Plain and simple evil. Chief Johnson nodded, then turned back to the airport officer. Your name and badge number. Officer Dale Morrison, badge 2847. The officer's voice had lost all its earlier confidence. Sir, I was following standard procedure. The gate agent reported a suspected fraudulent ticket, and I was conducting an investigation. Standard procedure, Chief Johnson repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. Is it standard procedure to interrogate a minor without parental consent? To confiscate her phone when she asked to call her parents? To make a 12-year-old girl kneel on concrete as punishment? She was being uncooperative. She was telling you the truth, Chief Johnson roared, his composure finally cracking. My daughter gave you her name, her parents' names, offered to show you documentation, and begged you to verify her ticket. And instead of doing your job, instead of making one simple phone call to confirm her story, you decided she was guilty because she's black. The words hung in the air, undeniable, devastating. The airport officer opened his mouth to protest, but Chief Johnson wasn't finished. My daughter has never been in trouble in her life. She's an honor student. Debate team captain. Science fair winner. She volunteers at the library, reading to kids. She was traveling alone for the first time to visit her grandmother, and she was so excited. So proud. Her mother and I trusted her to do this independently because we've raised her to be responsible and capable and good. His voice broke slightly. And you looked at her beautiful black face and decided she was a criminal. You stripped her of her dignity. You terrified her. You made her kneel like she was less than human. My daughter. My baby girl. The room was completely silent except for the sound of Chief Johnson's breathing, heavy with rage and pain. The airport manager looked like he wanted to disappear. The gate agent was crying, but no one cared about her tears. The officer who'd made Maya kneel stood frozen, finally understanding the magnitude of what he'd done. Chief Johnson pulled out his phone. He dialed a number. It answered immediately. This is Chief Johnson. I need internal affairs at Detroit Metro Airport immediately. I'm filing formal complaints against 2 airport police officers for abuse of authority, racial profiling, and violation of a minor's civil rights. I also need the FAA to be contacted about gate agent misconduct. And get me the airline's corporate headquarters. They're about to have the worst day of their existence. He paused, listening. Then his voice went even harder. And I'm pulling every city contract we have with this airport pending a full investigation. If they want Detroit PD cooperation, if they want our security support, if they want anything from the city of Detroit, they're going to answer for what happened to my daughter today. The airport manager stepped forward, panic evident. Chief Johnson, please, let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can resolve this internally. Chief Johnson looked at him with utter contempt. Internally? Like you've been resolving discrimination complaints internally? How many other black passengers have your staff profiled? How many other children have been harassed? How many complaints have been swept under the rug because nobody with power was watching? He didn't wait for an answer. He walked out of that room, leaving chaos in his wake, heading toward wherever they'd taken his daughter. Behind him, the airport officer who'd made Maya kneel sank into a chair, his career over. The gate agent sobbed in the corner, finally understanding the consequences. And the airport manager pulled out his phone with shaking hands to make the calls that would try to contain a disaster that was already far beyond containment. Because Chief Marcus Johnson wasn't just a father protecting his daughter. He was a man with power, with authority, with the ability to make people answer for their actions. and he was about to use every bit of it. Chief Johnson found Maya in a private office near the airport security headquarters. She was sitting on a couch, a blanket around her shoulders, sipping water that one of his officers had given her. A paramedic was checking her knees, which were red and scraped from being forced onto the concrete. The elderly woman who'd helped her sat beside her, holding her hand. When Maya saw her father walk in, she started crying again. "Daddy." He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "I'm so sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry this happened to you. You're safe now. I promise you're safe." "They hurt me, Daddy," Maya sobbed into his shoulder. "They wouldn't listen. I told them the truth, and nobody believed me." "I know, baby. I know." Chief Johnson held her tight, feeling her small body shake against him. "But it's over now. And everyone who did this to you is going to face consequences. Real consequences." He looked at the paramedic. "How is she?" "Minor abrasions on both knees," the paramedic reported. "Nothing requiring stitches, but they'll be sore for a few days. I'd recommend ice and keeping them clean." "But Chief, the physical injuries aren't what I'm worried about. This kind of trauma to a child is a psychological impact." "I know," Chief Johnson said quietly. "We'll get her whatever help she needs. Thank you for checking her." He turned to the elderly woman. "Ma'am, I need your name. I want to personally thank you and make sure you're recognized for what you did today." "Dorothy Williams," the woman said. "And I don't need recognition, Chief. I just couldn't stand by and watch them hurt that baby. My own granddaughter is about her age. If it were her, I'd pray someone would help." "You gave my daughter her voice back when they tried to take it away," Chief Johnson said, emotion thick in his throat. "That matters more than you know. Can I get your contact information? I'd like to stay in touch." They exchanged numbers, and Dorothy squeezed Maya's hand one more time before standing. "You be strong, sweetheart. Your daddy's here now. And don't you ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am," Maya whispered. "Thank you for helping me." After Dorothy left, Chief Johnson sat down beside his daughter. "Maya, I need you to tell me everything that happened. From the beginning. Every detail. Can you do that?" Over the next 20 minutes, Maya recounted the entire nightmare. The gate agent's initial suspicion. The supervisor's accusations. Being taken to the interrogation room. The questions went in circles. The officers who wouldn't listen. Having her phone taken. Being moved to the holding room. The officer forced her to her knees. Every humiliating, terrifying moment. Chief Johnson listened without interrupting, his expression growing harder with each detail. When Maya finished, he pulled out his phone and started making calls. The first was to his wife. "Nicole, I need you to leave the hospital right now and come to the airport. Maya's okay physically, but she's been through something traumatic. She needs her mother." The second call was to his deputy chief. "I need a full internal affairs team at Detroit Metro Airport. I'm filing formal complaints against 2 airport police officers. Abuse of authority, racial profiling, interrogation of a minor without parental consent, and unlawful detention. I want every policy violation documented." The third call was to the city's corporation council. "I need you to review every contract the city of Detroit has with this airport. Security cooperation agreements, police support services, and emergency response protocols. I want options for termination or suspension pending investigation." The fourth call went to the regional director of the FAA. "This is Chief Marcus Johnson, Detroit PD. I'm reporting a serious civil rights violation involving an airline gate agent and your airport security personnel. A 12-year-old child was racially profiled, falsely accused of fraud, and subjected to degrading treatment. I'm requesting a federal investigation." Each call was methodical, professional, and devastating. Chief Johnson wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening. He was simply using his authority and his knowledge of how systems worked to ensure accountability. While he was making calls, the airport manager Richard Foster appeared at the door, flanked by 2 airline executives who'd been summoned from their corporate office downtown. They looked terrified. Chief Johnson, one of them, began. "I'm Gregory Barnes, Regional VP for the airline. We just learned what happened, and we want to express our deepest apologies. This is absolutely unacceptable. Save it, Chief Johnson said coldly. Your apologies mean nothing to my daughter. What matters is consequences and change. We're prepared to offer compensation, the other executive said quickly. A full refund, flight vouchers, and... You think you can buy your way out of traumatizing a child? Chief Johnson's voice was ice. My daughter was accused of fraud, interrogated without a parent present, had her property confiscated, and was forced to kneel on concrete by police officers responding to your employee's racist accusations. And you want to offer her flight vouchers? The executives exchanged panicked glances. What would you like us to do, Chief? Chief Johnson stood, his full height and authority filling the room. Here's what's going to happen. That gate agent, Jennifer Walsh, is fired. Effective immediately. Not suspended. Not transferred. Terminated. And I want a public statement from your airline explaining exactly why she was fired. I want the word racism used. No corporate euphemisms about policy violations. The VP nodded quickly. Agreed. Absolutely. Second, every employee at this airport undergoes mandatory anti-racism training, conducted by external civil rights organizations, not your internal HR department. And not online modules they can click through. Real, in-person, intensive training. Yes, sir. Third, you're implementing an independent reporting system for discrimination complaints that bypasses local management and goes straight to your corporate ethics office. And those complaints get investigated by third parties, not your own people. We can do that. Fourth, Chief Johnson continued, you're paying for counseling for my daughter. However long she needs it, whatever it costs. You're also making a substantial donation to civil rights organizations working to end racial profiling in travel. I'm thinking $500,000 minimum. The executives looked pained but nodded. We'll make that happen. And fifth, Chief Johnson's voice went harder. I want to see your employment records for every discrimination complaint filed at this airport in the past 5 years. I want to know how many were dismissed and how many employees are still working here despite multiple complaints. Because I guarantee my daughter isn't the first black passenger Jennifer Walsh has profiled. She's just the first one whose father had the power to do something about it. Chief Johnson, we can't just release personnel records, one executive protested weakly. You can and you will, Chief Johnson said. Or I can get a federal investigation started that will examine every aspect of your operations. Your choice. We'll work with you, the VP said quickly. Whatever you need. There was a knock on the door. A Detroit police sergeant entered. Chief, Internal Affairs is here. They're ready to interview Officer Morrison and Officer Jackson. Airport PD has been notified that both officers are suspended pending investigation. And sir, you should know, the video from that elderly woman's phone is already going viral. It's been shared thousands of times in the last hour. Good, Chief Johnson said. Let people see what happened. Let them see what racial profiling looks like. Let them see a 12-year-old child on her knees for the crime of being black. He turned back to the airline executives. You're going to put out a statement within the hour. You're going to acknowledge what happened. You're going to apologize without making excuses. You're going to announce the termination of your employee and the steps you're taking to prevent this from ever happening again. And you're going to do it before the media tears you apart. We will, the VP promised. Chief Johnson, I know this doesn't fix what happened, but please know we take this seriously. Chief Johnson looked at his daughter, small and traumatized on that couch, and back at the executives. You better. Because if I find out this was performative, if I discover you're just doing damage control until the publicity dies down, I will personally make it my mission to ensure every black family in America knows what your airline did to my child. The executives left quickly, already pulling out phones to begin crisis management. Chief Johnson sat back down beside Maya, exhausted but not finished yet. Daddy, Maya said quietly. Are they really going to fire that lady? Yes, baby. She's done. Her career in this industry is over. And those police officers? They're going to face disciplinary action at a minimum. Possibly criminal charges depending on what Internal Affairs finds. Maya looked up at her father. Is it always going to be like this? People not believing me because I'm black? Chief Johnson's heart broke a little more. I wish I could tell you no. I wish I could promise you that you'll never face racism again. But baby, the truth is this world is still broken in a lot of ways. There are still people who will judge you before they know you. But here's what I can promise. You have a voice. You have rights. You have people who love you and will fight for you. And now you know that when something like this happens, you speak up. You tell the truth. You demand to be heard. Because silence is how they win. Maya nodded slowly, processing this hard wisdom that no 12-year-old should have to learn. Can we go home now? Soon, Chief Johnson said. Your mom's on her way. We're going to wait for her, and then we're all going home together. And tomorrow, we're going to figure out the next steps. But for now, you just rest. You've been through enough. He held his daughter close, fury still burning in his chest at what she'd endured, at what could have happened if he hadn't been who he was, if he hadn't had the authority to make people answer for their actions. But the question that would haunt him, the question that would drive everything he did next, was this: how many other children had been treated this way and had no one with power to save them? 24 hours later, the story had exploded across national news. The video Dorothy Williams had recorded of 12-year-old Maya Johnson being forced to her knees by an airport police officer had been viewed over 15 million times. News outlets from CNN to local stations were covering it. Civil rights organizations were issuing statements. The hashtag Justice for Maya was trending nationwide. And the airline, Detroit Metro Airport, and the officers involved were facing a reckoning they could not escape. Chief Johnson sat in a conference room at Detroit Police Headquarters with his attorney, the city's corporation counsel, representatives from the NAACP, and the Detroit chapter of Black Lives Matter. Maya was at home with her mother, finally resting, though the nightmares had started last night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that interrogation room, felt the cold concrete under her knees, and heard the officer's voice telling her she was lying. The door opened, and Richard Foster, the airport manager, entered with his attorney and 2 more airline executives. They looked like they hadn't slept. Good, Chief Johnson thought. They shouldn't sleep while his daughter was having nightmares. Let's get started, Chief Johnson said, his voice all business. Do you have updates for me? The airline's VP, Gregory Barnes, pulled out a folder. Jennifer Walsh, the gate agent who initiated this incident, has been terminated. We've issued a public statement acknowledging racial profiling and discrimination. As requested, we used those exact words. No euphemisms. What about her employment history? Chief Johnson asked. How many complaints? Barnes hesitated, then slid a document across the table. 7. Over the past 4 years, 7 passengers filed complaints about Jennifer Walsh. 5 were black passengers who claimed she treated them differently, questioned their tickets without cause, or made them feel unwelcome. 2 were Hispanic passengers with similar complaints. And what action was taken? Chief Johnson's voice was dangerously quiet. Written warnings on 3 occasions. Mandatory sensitivity training twice. But no suspension. No termination. So you knew, Chief Johnson said. You knew she was racially profiling a passenger, and you kept her employed. You let her continue having contact with travelers, with children, with vulnerable people. Because it was easier to give her training than to actually fire her. We acknowledge that we failed in our oversight, Barnes said carefully. We should have acted more decisively. You think? One of the NAACP representatives interjected sharply. This woman terrorized a child. And she only got fired because that child's father happens to be the police chief. What about all the other passengers she targeted who didn't have that kind of power? We're implementing new policies, Barnes said quickly. A 3 strikes policy for discrimination complaints. Any employee with 2 substantiated complaints gets mandatory leave and intensive retraining. 3 complaints and they're terminated. No exceptions. That should have been your policy all along, Chief Johnson said. But it's a start. What about the other employees? How many are still working there with multiple complaints? Barnes looked pained. 12 employees across various positions have 2 or more discrimination complaints in their files. We're reviewing each case individually. No, Chief Johnson said firmly. If they have 2 or more substantiated complaints, they're done. Terminated. You don't get multiple chances to be racist to passengers. The airport manager, Richard Foster, spoke up. Chief Johnson, with all due respect, we can't just fire a dozen employees without proper process. There are labor laws, union contracts. Watch me not care about your labor concerns when my daughter is waking up with nightmares. Chief Johnson cut him off. You have employees who have repeatedly treated black passengers like criminals, and you're worried about labor contracts? Figure it out. Or I'll make sure every civil rights organization in the country knows that Detroit Metro Airport protects racist employees. Foster went pale. We'll handle it. What about the airport police? Chief Johnson turned his attention to the internal affairs captain who'd been conducting the investigation. What's the status on officers Morrison and Jackson? The captain, a white woman named Sarah Che, and whom Chief Johnson knew and respected, opened her own folder. Officer Dale Morrison, the one who forced your daughter to kneel, is facing termination from airport police and criminal charges. We're recommending charges for unlawful detention of a minor, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and official misconduct. The prosecutor's office is reviewing. And Jackson? Officer Robert Jackson is facing suspension without pay and mandatory retraining at a minimum. He was complicit in the interrogation of a minor without parental consent and failed to intervene when his partner crossed the line. His actions don't rise to the level of criminal charges, but they violate department policy. Not good enough, Chief Johnson said. Jackson watched Morrison terrorize my daughter and did nothing. He participated in an interrogation he knew was wrong. That's not a suspension offense. That's a termination offense. Captain Chin nodded. I agree. I'm recommending termination for both officers. The final decision rests with the airport police chief, but given the public attention and the severity of the violations, I believe he'll follow my recommendation. Make sure he does, Chief Johnson said. Because if those officers keep their jobs, I'm holding a press conference to explain why the airport values protecting bad cops over protecting children. His attorney leaned forward. Marcus, I need to tell you, the airline and airport have offered a settlement. They're proposing $3 million to Maya, a public apology, and agreement to all the policy changes you've requested. Chief Johnson was quiet for a moment. $3 million was a lot of money. It would pay for Maya's college, her future, anything she needed. But money didn't heal trauma. Money didn't undo the terror his daughter had experienced. I'll consider the settlement on 2 conditions, he said finally. 1, every change they've promised gets put in writing with enforcement mechanisms. I want quarterly audits by independent civil rights organizations. I want public reporting of discrimination complaints and how they're handled. I want accountability that doesn't disappear when the news cycle moves on. Agreed, Barnes said immediately. And 2, Chief Johnson continued, I want a meeting with every employee at this airport. Security, gate agents, police, and everyone who has contact with passengers. And I'm bringing Maya. They're going to look at my daughter's face. They're going to hear her tell them what happened to her. They're going to understand that every passenger who walks through their airport is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's loved one. And if they can't treat people with dignity after that, then they don't deserve to work here. The room was silent. Then Barnes nodded. We'll arrange it. Whatever you want, Chief Johnson. One of the Black Lives Matter organizers spoke up. Chief Johnson, we want to support Maya and your family. We'd like to organize a peaceful demonstration at the airport. Not to disrupt operations, but to make it clear that racial profiling won't be tolerated. Would you be okay with that? Chief Johnson looked at the young organizer, maybe 25 years old, fierce and determined. That would mean a lot. Thank you. Over the next hour, they hammered out details. The settlement terms. The policy changes. The employee meeting. The timeline for implementation. The independent oversight. Every piece of accountability that Chief Johnson could leverage. When the meeting finally ended and the airline and airport representatives left, Chief Johnson sat back in his chair, exhausted. His attorney put a hand on his shoulder. You did well, Marcus. You got justice for Maya. Did I? Chief Johnson asked quietly. Or did I just use my power to get what any parent should be able to expect for their child? What about all the families who don't have a police chief for a father? What happens to their kids? The NAACP representative answered. That's why we keep fighting. That's why these policy changes matter. Every victory, even one that feels incomplete, makes it a little easier for the next family. Chief Johnson nodded, but the weight of it sat heavily on him. His daughter had suffered. Other children had suffered before her. And despite everything he was doing, he knew more would suffer in the future. But at least now, there would be consequences. At least now, people would know that racial profiling came with a cost. At least now, Maya would know that her voice mattered, that her father had fought for her, that justice, however imperfect, was possible. That night, Chief Johnson sat on the edge of Maya's bed. She was holding her stuffed elephant, the one she'd been planning to show her grandmother before everything went wrong. "Daddy," she said quietly, "that lady got fired. Those police officers are getting fired. The airline is paying money. But I still feel scared. Does that make me weak?" "No, baby," Chief Johnson said, his voice thick with emotion. "That makes you human. What happened to you was traumatic. Your feelings are valid. And healing takes time. But I promise you we're going to get you help. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need." "Will I ever stop being scared?" Maya asked. "Yes," Chief Johnson said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. "But even if some of that fear stays with you, you'll also be stronger. You'll know that you can survive hard things. That you have people who will fight for you. That your voice matters." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Daddy, I still want to see Grandma." Chief Johnson smiled sadly. "We'll drive to Chicago next week. All three of us. Family road trip. No airports. No planes. Just us in the road." "Okay," Maya said. "That sounds good." As he tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and turned off the light, Chief Johnson made himself a promise. He would use his position, his authority, his voice to keep fighting. Not just for Maya, but for every child who deserved to travel without fear, to exist without suspicion, to live without having to prove their humanity to people who'd already decided they didn't belong. Because if he didn't fight, who would? 3 months later, Chief Marcus Johnson stood on a stage at Detroit Metro Airport in front of 500 airline and airport employees. Beside him sat Maya, her mother, Dr. Nicole Johnson, and Dorothy Williams, the elderly woman who'd given Maya her phone. Behind them on a large screen was a photo of Maya from that day, tears streaming down her face, kneeling on concrete. The room was silent. "This is my daughter," Chief Johnson began, his voice steady but emotional. 12 years old. Honor student. Debate team captain. A child who'd never been in trouble in her life. And 3 months ago, your colleagues decided she was a criminal before she even opened her mouth. But because she's black." He paused, letting that sink in. Some employees looked down at their hands. Others met his gaze with shame or understanding or both. "I'm not here to make you feel comfortable," he continued. "I'm here to make you understand. Every passenger who walks through this airport is someone's child. Someone's parents. Someone who deserves dignity and respect regardless of their skin color, their age, or their economic status. When you profile someone, when you treat them with suspicion because of how they look, you're not just following a hunch or doing your job. You're causing harm. Real, lasting harm." He gestured to Maya. "My daughter still has nightmares. She's been in therapy every week since this happened. She's afraid to fly now. Afraid of police officers who aren't her dad. Afraid of airports. All because adults who should have known better decided her black skin made her suspicious." Maya stood up, walked to the microphone with shaking hands. Chief Johnson put his hand on her shoulder for support. "My name is Maya Johnson," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "I'm 12 years old. I like science, debate, and reading. I have friends and dreams and a family that loves me. I'm not a criminal. I'm not suspicious. I'm just a kid who wanted to visit her grandmother. And you made me feel like I was less than human." Her voice broke slightly, but she kept going. "I hope you remember my face. I hope you remember how scared I was. And the next time you see a black passenger, a black child, I hope you remember that we're people. Just people. And we deserve to be treated that way." She stepped back from the microphone, and her father wrapped his arm around her. Dr. Johnson stood and joined them, the three of them a united front. "Changes have been implemented," Chief Johnson said. "New policies. Better oversight. Real consequences for discrimination. But policies don't change hearts. Training doesn't eliminate bias. That work is harder. That work requires you to examine your own prejudices, to check your assumptions, to see people as individuals instead of stereotypes. He looked around the room. Some of you are going to leave here and go right back to how you've always operated. You'll think this was just a PR event. That if you keep your head down, nothing will change. But I want to be very clear. I'm watching. Civil rights organizations are watching. The media is watching. And the next time someone files a discrimination complaint at this airport, it will be taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and consequences will be real. Dorothy Williams stood and approached the microphone. Her voice was strong despite her 72 years. I'm old enough to remember when black people couldn't sit at lunch counters. When we had to use separate bathrooms. When traveling while black meant constant fear and humiliation. I thought we'd come further than we have. That day I helped Maya, and I saw history repeating itself. And I refused to stay silent anymore. If you see discrimination happening, if you witness injustice, you speak up. You intervene. Because silence is how racism survives. The meeting lasted another hour. Employees asked questions. Some are defensive. Some genuine. Some clearly just wanted it to be over. But the message was delivered. Maya's face was now connected to policies and procedures. Her trauma was no longer abstract. As they left the airport, Maya looked up at her father. Do you think it worked? Do you think they'll change? Some of them will, Chief Johnson said, honestly. Not all. But some. And that's something. 6 months after that day at Gate 14, Maya Johnson boarded a plane for the first time since her trauma. Her parents were with her, one on each side, but this time she wasn't a child traveling alone. She was a young woman who'd survived something terrible and was learning to be brave again. The gate agent who processed their tickets was a young black woman who smiled warmly and said, "Have a wonderful flight." Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly. Maybe things really could change. On the plane, as they settled into their seats, Maya looked at her father. "Daddy, do you think what happened to me mattered? Like, did it change anything?" Chief Johnson took his daughter's hand. "Baby girl, because of what you went through, 7 employees who were repeatedly discriminating against passengers lost their jobs. 2 police officers who abused their authority were terminated. An entire airport implemented new policies. Thousands of employees sat through training where they had to look at your face and hear your story. And countless families saw what happened to you and started conversations about racism with their own children. So yes, Maya, it mattered. It doesn't make what you went through okay. It doesn't erase your trauma. But your pain led to change. Imperfect change. Incomplete change. But change nonetheless. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think racial discrimination and prejudice can end? I want your honest answer. Not what you think you should say, but what you actually believe. Can we reach a point where a black child at an airport is just a child? What do you think needs to happen to stop this? More laws? Better training? Personal accountability? Cultural shift? Tell us what path forward you see. Do you think firing those employees and officers was enough? Or is something deeper required? Can you terminate racism? Or does real change require something more fundamental? And here's the hardest question. Have you ever stayed silent when you witnessed discrimination? Maybe you saw it happening at an airport, a store, or a public space. You knew it was wrong, but you didn't speak up. What stopped you? Was it fear? Uncertainty? Not wanting to get involved? And what would it take for you to speak up next time? Drop your answers in the comments. I'm reading every single one. No judgment here. Just an honest conversation about where we are and where we need to go. If you believe racism should become a thing of the past, if you want to be like Chief Marcus Johnson, someone who uses their power to protect the vulnerable and demand accountability, if you want to be like Maya Johnson, a child who maintained her dignity and used her voice even after trauma, if you want to be like Dorothy Williams, an elderly woman who finally said enough is enough and helped when others stayed silent, then like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Share this story so more people can see it, learn from it, and be challenged by it. Because we're not just telling stories here. We're documenting a movement. We're creating a record that says we saw, we witnessed, and we refuse to stay silent. Every share is an act of resistance. Every comment is a testimony. Every subscription says this matters. These lives matter. This fight is not over. That gate agent thought she could terrorize a black child without consequences because she'd done it before and gotten away with it. Those officers thought they could interrogate and humiliate a 12-year-old because who would stop them? But when people spoke up, when witnesses testified, when a father with power held them all accountable, everything changed. You have that power too. Maybe not the power of a police chief, but the power of your voice. The power to be a witness instead of a bystander. The power to record injustice and share it. The power to say this is wrong when you see it happening. The power to teach the next generation that silence is complicity and speaking up is courage. Use it.